There's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't show up on any medical test. It's not the kind that sleep can fix. It's not the kind that a vacation can touch. It's the kind where you wake up already tired, before the day has even asked anything of you. Where you've been praying the same prayer for so long, you're not even sure if you believe the words anymore. Where you go through the motions, work, church, family, smile. But somewhere deep inside, you feel like a person who has been running underwater. Moving, but barely. And always out of breath. You haven't told most people. Maybe you haven't told anyone. Because from the outside, your life looks fine. And so you carry it quietly. This weight that has no name. This weariness that goes all the way down to the bone, past the bone, into something that feels like your very soul. If that's where you are right now, stay with me. What I'm about to share isn't a motivational speech. It isn't a list of things you need to do better or try harder. It's a map of 7 specific signs that God uses to signal that your season of exhaustion is finally coming to an end. And here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. Every season has an end. The writer of Ecclesiastes understood something that we, in the middle of our suffering, tend to forget. He wrote, "To everything there is a season." Not some things, not the easy things, everything. That means this season, the one that has felt endless, the one that has worn you thinner than you thought you could survive. This season has a boundary. It has a finish line. And God, who set the boundary of every ocean, the turning of every tide, has also set the boundary of this. But here's what I find remarkable about the way He works. He doesn't simply end a season without warning. He leaves signs. He always has. Throughout Scripture, throughout history, throughout the quiet stories of ordinary lives, God has always given those He loves a signal that the shift is coming before the shift arrives. Not to confuse, but to prepare. Because He is not a God who ambushes His children with grace. He is a God who walks ahead of you and then turns gently and says, "Follow me. I've already been there." These 7 signs are those signals. And I want to say this carefully. If you recognize even 3 of them in your own life, right now, that is not coincidence. That is not wishful thinking. That is the fingerprint of a God who sees exactly where you are and who has already begun the work of bringing you through. So, let's begin. Sign number 1, the returning stillness. There is a particular noise that exhaustion makes inside the mind. It isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper, but it never stops. It runs in the background of everything, while you're washing dishes, while you're sitting in church, while you're lying in the dark at 2 a.m, staring at the ceiling. Whispers that say, "This will never change. You've tried everything. You've prayed everything, and nothing has moved." And for a long time, you argued back. You fought those voices with scripture, with willpower, with sheer determination. But even the fighting was exhausting, because you can only wrestle with darkness for so long before your arms give out. And then something shifts. You begin to notice, not all at once, but gradually, that the noise is quieter. Not because the problems have disappeared. The bills are still there. The relationship is still complicated. The situation hasn't resolved itself. But something deep inside you has stopped arguing, stopped bracing, stopped gripping the edge of the cliff with white knuckles. There is a stillness beginning to settle in the center of your chest. Not emptiness, not numbness. Something different. Something that almost feels like rest. Psalmist recorded the voice of God speaking directly into this moment. He wrote, "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. Be still, not be fixed, not be finished, not be certain about the outcome. Simply be still and know. Know that the one who holds the universe in his hands has not loosened his grip on you. The stillness you are beginning to feel is not the stillness of defeat. It is not the quietness of someone who has simply given up. This is something holy. This is God clearing the noise so you can finally hear what he has been saying all along. He's not absent. He has been here. And he is making room inside you for what is coming next. This is sign 1. And if you feel it, even faintly, do not dismiss it. That is him. Sign number 2, the shift in how you see your pain. There is a morning. You won't know exactly when it happens because it doesn't arrive with an announcement. But there is a morning when you look back at everything you have walked through, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like a sentence. For so long, the suffering felt like punishment, like evidence of something wrong with you, like proof that God had either forgotten you or worse, that he had looked at your life and found you unworthy of rescue. And that belief, that quiet and terrible belief, may have been the heaviest thing you've carried through all of this. But something is beginning to change in how you see it. You start to notice, slowly, imperfectly, that the very things that broke you open also built something in you. The season of waiting, it taught you a patience you could not have learned any other way. The loss cracked something loose that needed to go. The silence forced you inward, to a depth in God you would never have reached if life had remained comfortable. The pain you are beginning to realize was not random. It was not punishment. It was preparation. This does not mean the pain wasn't real. It was. It is. You do not need to minimize what you have survived. But the meaning of it, the meaning in it is beginning to change. The Apostle Paul wrote these words to the church in Rome. And I want you to hear them not as theology, but as a personal promise. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him. Romans 8:28. All things, not the comfortable things, not the things that made sense. All things. Even this. Even the part that still doesn't make sense. When you begin to see purpose where you once saw only punishment, that is not wishful thinking. That is spiritual maturity. That is the evidence that God has been working in you, not merely around you. He is not just changing your circumstances. He is changing you. And that kind of change is always a sign of something greater approaching. Sign number 3, the pruning of relationships. This one is tender, so I want to speak to it gently. There are people in your life, people you may have loved, people you may still love, who are beginning to feel distant. And it's not because of a conflict, necessarily. Not because of a falling out or a betrayal. Something quieter than that. It's the slow, unsettling realization that who you are becoming no longer fits neatly into who you were when those relationships were formed. Some connections were built around a version of you that God is now leading you away from. That version was real. That season was real, but it is passing. And as it passes, certain voices, certain spaces, certain dynamics, they no longer feel like home the way they once did. And that dissonance, that quiet sense of misalignment, can feel like loss. It can feel like loneliness. But I want you to hear this carefully. Not everything that leaves your life is being taken from you. Some things are being removed on your behalf. Jesus used the image of a vine and a vine dresser to describe this very process. He said, "He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful." John 15:2. Notice, even the fruitful branch is pruned. Not because it is failing, because it is meant to carry more. The pruning is not rejection. It is preparation for greater abundance. The vine dresser does not cut carelessly. He cuts precisely. He knows exactly what must go so that what remains can flourish. The relationships that are quietly falling away, God knows. He is not unaware. And what He is making space for in the next season of your life requires room. Room that can only be made by letting go of what was meant for a chapter that is now closing. This is not abandonment. This is the careful, loving hand of a God who is curating your next season. And it is sign 3. Sign number 4, the hunger for purpose coming back. You remember what it felt like to want things, to dream, to wake up in the morning with some sense of direction, some quiet excitement about the day ahead. And then, somewhere in the middle of this long, exhausting season, that feeling went quiet. The future stopped feeling like possibility and started feeling like weight. You stopped making plans. You stopped imagining. Just getting through became the only goal. Survival mode is real. It is not weakness. It is what happens to a human being when the load becomes too heavy for too long. The mind narrows. The heart conserves. You stop looking forward because forward feels like more of this. And more of this feels like too much. But something is stirring. You may have noticed it, a small thing, easy to dismiss. A thought about the future that doesn't immediately fill you with dread. A conversation that sparks something in you. A quiet sense that there might be more to your story than this chapter. It is fragile. You don't want to name it too loudly in case it disappears. But it is there. That flicker, that small, like stubborn returning fire. The prophet Jeremiah carried the words of God to people who had lost everything. Their city, their temple, their way of life. And into that devastation, God spoke. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29:11. A hope, a future. not as abstractions, but as a promise spoken by a God who does not make promises he does not intend to keep. When hope begins to outweigh exhaustion, even for a single moment, that is not wishful thinking. That is the breath of God moving across the surface of a life that is about to come back to life. He is not done with you. He is reigniting you. And that hunger you feel stirring, tend to it. Protect it. It is sign 4. Sign number 5, the return of clarity. Exhaustion does something to the mind that is hard to describe until you've lived it. It doesn't just make you tired, it makes you foggy. Decisions that should be simple feel impossible. Thoughts that should be clear arrive tangled. You read a paragraph and can't remember it. You start a task and lose the thread. And because this fog has been with you so long, you begin to wonder if you've simply become this slower, duller, less than you used to be. You haven't. What you have been living through is the neurological and spiritual reality of prolonged stress. When the body is in survival mode for an extended period of time, the mind follows. The brain narrows its focus to the immediate threat. Everything else, creativity, long-term thinking, joy, even memory, gets quieted so the system can simply endure. But you begin to notice something changing. You wake up one morning and the fog is lighter. A thought arrives whole, not fragmented. You finish a task. You laugh at something. Genuinely laugh, without immediately feeling guilty for it. You notice beauty you had stopped seeing. The colors of something ordinary. The sound of a bird. The warmth of sunlight on your face. Small things, but they reach you now in a way they haven't in a long time. The prophet Isaiah wrote, "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak." Isaiah 40:29. Not eventually. Not once you've earned it. He gives. Present tense. Active. To the weary. Not to the recovered. Not to the ones who have already climbed out, but to the ones who are still in the middle of the climb. This return of clarity, this slow brightening of the mind, it is not a coincidence of good sleep or better circumstances. It is restoration. It begins on the inside, quietly, before it ever becomes visible on the outside. And its arrival is a sign that God is not merely sustaining you through this season. He is preparing you for what comes after it. This is sign 5. Sign number 6, the small doors beginning to open. For a long time, it felt like every door was closed. You knocked. You prayed. You waited. You knocked again. And the silence on the other side of those doors became part of the exhaustion. Not just the closed doors themselves, but the meaning you began to assign to them. Maybe I'm not meant for more than this. Maybe I've missed it. Maybe the window has passed. And then, quietly, unexpectedly, something shifts. It isn't usually a grand opening. It rarely is. It's a phone call you weren't expecting from someone you hadn't spoken to in months. It's a conversation that turns in a direction you couldn't have orchestrated. It's an opportunity that appears in a space you hadn't thought to look. A connection that forms without you forcing it. A door. Not the door you had been knocking on, sometimes, but a door, opening. And when it does, you notice something. You didn't make this happen. You couldn't have. The timing is too precise. The convergence, too unlikely. The fingerprints on this are not yours. That recognition, I didn't arrange this, is important. Because it means something beyond you is arranging on your behalf. The risen Christ spoke these words to a church that had been faithful in little through much hardship. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Revelation 3:8. No one can shut it. Not the people who doubted you. Not the years that felt wasted. Not the mistakes you've made or the time you feel you've lost. When God opens a door in your life, it is not fragile. It is not contingent on your perfection. It stands open because He has placed it there. For you, for this moment, for the person you have become, through everything you have endured. When opportunities begin to find you, rather than you desperately chasing them, that is God going before you. That is sign 6. Sign number 7, the deep, quiet readiness. This is the final sign, and unlike the others, you will not find it in your circumstances. You will not find it in an answered prayer, or an open door, or a cleared relationship. You will find it in something much harder to locate, and much more significant. You will find it inside yourself. There comes a moment, and perhaps you are close to it, or perhaps you are already there, where something settles in you. Not certainty about the future, not the absence of fear, not the knowledge of what the next chapter holds or how it will unfold, but a quiet, deep, unshakable sense that, whatever comes, you are ready. That you have been through enough to trust the one who leads you. That the season you have survived has not destroyed you. It has built something in you that you could not have built any other way. You don't feel this because everything is resolved. You feel it because something has shifted at the very center of your faith. You have moved slowly, painfully, honestly, from believing in God to trusting Him. And those are not the same thing. Belief is knowing He exists. Trust is letting go of the edge and allowing Him to catch you. God spoke these words to Joshua on the edge of the promised land, a man who had also walked through a long and exhausting wilderness. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. Wherever you go. Not just into the comfortable places, not just into the victories. Wherever. Into the unknown chapters, into the new beginnings, into the spaces that haven't been named yet, He will be there. He will be there first. This readiness, this quiet courage you feel rising in you, it is not yours. It was never supposed to be. It comes from something larger than your own strength. It comes from a trust that has been forged in the fire of this very season. And it is the clearest sign of all that this season has accomplished what it was sent to accomplish. This is sign 7. And if you feel it, even as a whisper, then hear me. You are not at the beginning of your exhaustion. You are at the end of it. Before we move to the final word, I want to pause here for a moment. Because there are signs that don't make it into sermons. Signs that don't have scripture verses attached to them. Signs that are so ordinary, so quiet, so easy to dismiss as coincidence, that most people never realize they are signs at all. But they are. And if even one of these lands for you, I want you to receive it as exactly what it is. A message from a God who communicates in the language of your everyday life. The first one is this: you suddenly want to clean. Maybe it started with a drawer, or a closet you hadn't opened in months, or a corner of a room that had been accumulating the quiet clutter of a difficult season. And one day, without planning it, without anyone suggesting it, you felt this pull, this urge to clear things out, to donate, to discard, to reorganize, to make the space around you feel lighter. Don't dismiss that. What happens inside us always finds a way to express itself outside us. When God begins to clear something internally, when He begins to make room in your spirit, your hands often follow before your mind understands why. That impulse to simplify, to let go, to create breathing room in your physical world, it is mirroring something He is already doing in the deeper places. He is not just tidying your home, He is tidying you. And that kind of clearing always precedes something new. The second sign is quieter still. The things that used to consume you no longer do. There was a situation, a person, a fear, a scenario that used to play on a loop in your mind, that you rehearsed, that you worried, that you prayed about so many times the words had worn grooves in your heart. It occupied enormous space. It had weight and presence and power over your peace. And then, without you fully realizing it, it lost its grip. Not because it was resolved, not because you finally figured out the answer or said the right thing or the situation changed, but because something shifted in you below the level of your own effort, below willpower, below strategy. Something God moved. Something He quietly rearranged in the interior of your soul. And suddenly, the thing that loomed so large, it is still there, perhaps, but it no longer owns the center of your attention. You can look at it without flinching. You can breathe near it. That is not indifference. That is freedom. And freedom like that cannot be manufactured. It can only be given. And the third sign, this one might stop you mid-breath. Someone said something to you, not a pastor, not a close friend, not the person you would have expected. Maybe a stranger in a waiting room, a coworker who doesn't even know you well, someone at church you've only spoken to in passing. And they said something offhand, ordinary to them, that landed in you like an arrow, finding the exact center of a prayer you had been praying in private. They had no idea. They were just talking. But you knew. The moment those words left their mouth, something in your chest recognized them. Because those were the words, the exact words you had been asking God for. Spoken through lips that had no idea they were being used as a messenger. That is not coincidence. There is no such thing as coincidence in the economy of a God who numbers the hairs on your head. He heard your prayer, every version of it, even the ones you stopped believing. And He answered it through a person who didn't even know they were carrying the answer. He does this. He always has. He speaks through burning bushes and through ordinary conversations on ordinary days. And when it happens, the only appropriate response is to receive it as what it is. A word placed precisely by a God who is more attentive to your life then you have allowed yourself to believe. And if you recognized yourself in even one of those, even one, then I need you to stay with me for what I'm about to say next. Look at how far you've come, even in the last 30 minutes. The stillness returning to your spirit, the shift in how you see your pain, the relationships being quietly cleared, the hunger for purpose coming back, the clarity returning to your mind, the small doors beginning to open, and that deep, quiet readiness, that sense, fragile but real, that you are prepared for what comes next. 7 signs. Not from a self-help book, not from a personality framework or a wellness philosophy. From the Word of God. From the pattern He has always used. With Abraham in the wilderness, with Joseph in the prison, with David in the cave. With every ordinary person who has ever stood exactly where you are standing now, wondering if God had forgotten them. He hadn't. He never has. And the signs He left for them are the same signs He is leaving for you. You have walked through something, and you are still here. That is not small. That is everything. Now I want to speak directly to you. Not to everyone watching, to you. The one who has been holding on, barely, for longer than anyone around you fully knows. The one who has smiled through things that were quietly breaking you. The one who kept showing up to work, to family, to faith, even when every part of you wanted to disappear into the silence and stay there. Hear this. Receive this. Let it settle all the way down. Your season of exhaustion has served its purpose. Every moment of it. God did not waste a single breath of what you have been through. Not the sleepless nights when the ceiling was your only companion. Not the prayers that rose from you and seemed to dissolve into silence before they reached anything. Not the losses, the ones that broke something open in you so deeply, you weren't sure it would ever close. Not the moments of doubt. Not the days when your faith was nothing more than a single thread you held because letting go felt worse. All of it, every last piece of it, was preparation. And the preparation is complete. Your breakthrough is not somewhere out in the distance, waiting for you to earn it, or find it, or finally say the right prayer. It is already in motion. God has already gone ahead. The ground you are about to step onto has already been walked by the one who holds your name. What is coming for you is not a reward for surviving. It is the natural outpouring of a God who has been faithfully, quietly, relentlessly at work in you, through all of it, and who does not begin a work He does not intend to finish. Rise. It is time. Before you go, I want to ask you something simple. In the comments below, tell me which of these 7 signs you are seeing in your own life right now. It doesn't have to be all 7. It doesn't have to be perfectly clear. Even if it's just one. Even if you're not entirely sure. Write it down. I read every single one. And there is something powerful about naming what God is doing. About saying out loud, this is happening in me. And if this message met you somewhere real today, there's one more thing I'd like to share with you. It's a video that has already reached over 100,000 people who needed it. And I think you might be next. It's called, "The Exhaustion You Feel is the very place God is rebuilding you." It picks up exactly where this one leaves off. You'll find it waiting for you. Until next time, rise with God.